Post-Iowa, pre-New Hampshire, what's going to happen before the New Hampshire primary? Well, one thing that seems to be happening is New Hampshire is going completely off the deep end, suggesting that with HB 542, the GOP-controlled Senate saying, we no longer need mandatory education for New Hampshire students. If parents write and say they don't like the curriculum in New Hampshire schools, they can just pull their kids out and teach them whatever they want if they object to the education that they're receiving. As it's worded, a parent could object to the entire curriculum and substitute absolutely whatever they want with no measurement or assessment or accountability for the, quote, alternative material. So, Lewis, this would allow a heavy metal and role-playing game focused education if a parent, God forbid, wanted to do that, you know?
Right. Right. I'm not sure if that would be good for the child, but so they can't do that. They can't choose to do that right now. Homeschooling is not an option.
No, homeschooling is an option, but this basically
So how
says,
is this different?
This says that there's not even going to be any kind of standardized assessment for what the child knows, as far as here's what at the 6th grade equivalent they should know as far as math goes, for example. You can basically just be exempt from the entire thing.
Are there any standardized tests for students in New Hampshire?
Like the MCAS in
Right.
Massachusetts? I don't know if there's an equivalent to that.
Yeah. All right, well.
So that's the direction New Hampshire's heading, and we know that they're very, very big on freedom there, and we've seen a number of debates there with the Republicans in and around the New Hampshire primary, and over the weekend we had one, and Newt Gingrich is visibly angry and I would say really bitter after the way the Iowa caucuses went. And he is telling Mitt Romney made a point where he was basically trying to argue, I'm not a career politician. Here's Mitt Romney making that point. And then we'll get Newt Gingrich's response. And Newt Gingrich is not at all happy with Mitt Romney.
For me, my career was being in business and starting a business and making it successful. My life's passion has been my family, my faith, and my country. I believe by virtue of the experiences I've had that I'm in a good position to make a contribution to Washington. I long for a day when instead of having people who go to Washington for 20 and 30 years who get elected and then when they lose office, they stay there and make money as lobbyists or connecting to businesses, I think it stinks. I think we ought to have people go to Washington and serve Washington and serve as the people of their nation and go home. I'd like to see term limits in Washington.
Right, so there is Mitt Romney saying, I am not a career politician. And then Newt Gingrich gets involved and basically makes the argument, and it's an argument that could be made of a lot of these candidates, that the reason you haven't been a politician, an elected official all this time, is because you lost a bunch of elections. You tried to be a career politician, you just didn't get voted in.
Oh, yeah, Mitt, I realize the red light doesn't mean anything to you because you're the front runner. But can we drop a little bit of the pious baloney? The fact is, you ran in '94 and lost. That's why you weren't serving the Senate with Rick Santorum. The fact is, you had a very bad re-election rating. You dropped out of office. You had been out of state for something like 200 days preparing to run for president. You didn't have this interlude of citizenship while you thought about what to do. You were running for president while you were governor. You were going all over the country. You were out of state consistently. You then promptly re-entered politics. You happened to lose to McCain.
All right. So Newt Gingrich, do you agree Newt Gingrich does seem just incredibly irritated with this entire thing and bitter?
Well, I mean, I would be too.
If negative ads were run about you.
Well, I mean, that's unavoidable.
Or if you got 13%
but when the front runner will just say anything and people believe it, I mean, that's got to be frustrating.
I mean, the same thing could be said to Gingrich, right? I mean, he's had stints doing lobbying, which he called he called it something else. Some kind of political consulting is what he called it. Basically, influence peddling, to quote Michelle Bachmann. One of the few times I'll quote her positively. We could say the same thing about Gingrich, but the thing is, the system allows for career politicians. That's not being discussed. Mitt Romney does say, well, I would be for term limits. But that's one aspect. Let's talk about campaign finance reform. Let's talk about Mitt Romney saying, holding absolutely no real positions about anything other than what he thinks at the time will make him look a little bit better.
Right.
That's about it.